I'm here with Jake Puhl, who is the CEO of the Dentist Entrepreneur Organization. I'm excited to sit down with him and talk about many issues concerning DSOs today. And obviously, scaling up is the big topic that we're talking about, right? How do you scale up from 1 to 2 to 5 to 10 to 50 locations? And I guess and having attended many of your events, there's two things that I have gotten from those events. There's you have to have processes and you have to have people in order to scale. So let's talk about people, right? Without the right people, the right dentist, the right hygienist, the right assistants, the right team members, you cannot grow an organization. And you guys spend a lot of time talking about hiring the right people, getting the right people on the bus, as Jim Collins would say, and then keeping the wrong ones off the bus. So how do you guys motivate and how do you train, how do you get their mindset ready to make sure that the right people, the right team members are attracted to the practice, number one. And then, and retention is a big deal too. So let's talk about how do you attract the right people to your practice? What's your mindset about that?
Yeah, well, it's funny because anytime you bring in a larger DSO or a larger business who has scaled, people, they talk about, they know that people are the key, right? So this is something that we need to learn as we're growing. As far as attracting the right people, it really, in our experience, and belief it starts with vision, right? Once you outline your vision, then you're going to attract people who are, who latch on to that. Right. So starting with the vision is number one, always, always, always. And then after that, it goes to core values. So what you're trying to do is really, you always call it like fishing. You fish with different baits, right? And depending on the bait you use is what kind of fish you're going to catch. So you need to establish what your bait is so that you're catching the right people. For example, we have groups that are, kind of young and hip and use a lot of technology, and they're going to attract people that are young and hip and use a lot of technology. Sure. We have groups that, they're about being established family people and work-life balance, and so they're going to attract associates that like that, right? So it's really important to get down your messaging and really understand who you are, which weirdly starts about who you are as a person. Sure. If you're the leader, right? Sure. Are you a leader who likes work-life balance? Well, then that's going to be your vision. That's going to be your culture, your vision around that. So, right. So that's what it really starts with is the foundation.
And we talked a lot about profiling, right? At many of your speakers at the events have talked about the desk profiling, for example. Do you guys recommend using some sort of psychological profiling way so that depending on what position you're hiring, you're picking the right people?
So this is a great one, right? We've talked to many people in the industry, many we talked to HR managers, we've talked to everyone, sure. And they all recommend something different. This is a great example, right? Okay. Some folks actually, they'll use DISC or Colby or not really Myers-Briggs. There's about 5 or 6 that everyone sure. kind of likes. So some like to use that. Okay. Some like to hire and then profile. Okay. And, so like we were talking in a different conversation about, it's just about finding great people. I actually line up with you in that where I just find amazing people, sure. and then I figure out afterwards where they go or what they're going to do. Other people like to have their job scorecard or their exact responsibilities completely outlined, sure. the exact personality they want, and then go and find that. So it's a mixture of all of those, and different people have different ways of going about it. For me, I'm not a big personality profiler. That's okay. just my own hiring. Okay. But I've talked to people who love it and they wouldn't do business without it. I've talked to people who have grown large DSOs and never touched a personality profile. So that's why it's great.
But I guess communicating the vision and core values is most important, because when you communicate that, you're going to attract the right people, right? Is whatever you're going to sow in the ground, that's what's going to come up. And if you communicate that here's who we are, here's what we believe in, here's our core values, then the people who believe in them, I guess you have to kind of have your interviewing process based on that, right?
100% exactly. So whether or not somebody is like a high D or a low I or whatever it might be, sure. is important, but it's secondary to do they believe in people for profits? Right. Or do they believe in working very hard and getting to work early and really not complaining? Maybe that might be a core value, or whatever your core values are, do the job, be integrous. That's what's number one. And then it's like a luxury to be able to kind of figure out if you want a high deal, or whatever it might be. It's an element to look at.
So then it comes to retention, right? Because a lot of DSOs today, one of the big pain points is doctor retention. right? How do you retain associates? What kind of models have you seen within your groups? There is the equity model that's coming up. There is, inspiring. Mark talked about, he came up with a new word called it's like an apprentice and associate combined.
Apprenticeship.
Which I was intrigued by, because you really want to train apprentices to eventually grow as leaders and grow this organization. So what models are you seeing in terms of retaining doctors, number one, and then eventually other people as well?
Well, this is the $1 million question, right? And this is not one that is solved very easily. And I'm not claiming to know how to solve it. And anyone who comes and talks to our group, or anyone in our group, they're all struggling with the same thing, But when it comes down to a complicated problem like this, it comes down to principles. And really, it's a spectrum. The more you can kind of lean on these principles, the better. So the way I look at this, there's two ways to approach it. One is from the mechanical, tactical aspect. Compensation. Is there an ownership plan? What kind of equipment do they have? Are you, how are you compensating them? What are you taking care of in their compensation? What's not taken care of? All those kind of mechanical things. And you can twist and turn the knobs there and make a lot of changes there. And there are certainly strategies that work and don't work, right? Sure. On the other aspect is human innate, ownership of your job, feeling like they're involved in the company. Is it someplace they like to show up to every day? Is the culture good? Is the dentist owner not letting go control, right? Is there a lot of training? Is there mentorship? Do they feel like that the people in the company care about them as a person and care about their family, right? Those are a large part of why somebody stays at a company, right? So it's about looking at things from both of those angles.
And it's not all about compensation, right? I think we've looked at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and compensation, if you look at in those terms, compensation is at the very bottom. Yes, everybody needs to make a decent amount of money, but what they want from their life is meaning and purpose. And if they find good meaning and purpose, then they will work for you, even though they're not getting paid whatever the highest amount, because they're interested in self-development and self-actualization, which again, Mark has talked about this, and I believe that completely. So this is interesting. So retaining an employee, hiring an employee, again, goes back to culture, goes back to core values, goes back to your vision for the organization, and the DEO kind of brings it all together in your mastermind to kind of help them think about these things. Is that how you guys?
Yeah, I mean the one thing we all believe is that in dental right now we should be building great businesses, and great businesses start with people. In fact, that's all a great business is. It's a little bit of equipment and mostly people, right? And so we believe that all emerging groups should be focusing on people, focusing on values, focusing on these kind of things that a lot of people think are fluffy. But at the end of the day, in building leadership within your organization, that is what's going to move the needle and really help any entrepreneur, accomplish a vision.
That's a great point. So at the end of the day, it is really a people business. And so thank you for this incredible insight. We'll continue the conversations as we go along. Thank you.
Thanks, Noel.